Hey guys, this is Brandon Sports here. Just received wonderful news, fantastic news. Dirk Cutter has been fired from the head coach from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after 3 seasons. This bum has finally been fired. When this guy went 19 and 28, just below a 500 record with a stacked team. I'm not going to go into it like I did in my last video. I ranted way too long. Stacked offensive team. You know his offense. You know he has known players on defense. We are the same record as the New York Jets. And name 5 players off the Jets at the top of your head. Besides, exactly. I don't even know who to say besides because I don't know half the players. They're not known names. We should be doing a lot better than that. That's all I gotta say. Actually, I'll go into a little more. His play calling was ass as offensive. He tried being an offensive play caller. It sucked. Last year he lost us our season. We went 5-11 because he was primarily doing the offensive play calling. This year he tried offensive play calling one more time. I don't know why against the Washington Redskins. We lost 16-3 that game, being a top 3 offense this year. We've been scoring almost 30 points every single game, and we lost 16-3 the one game he decided to come out of retirement and start playing some calls again. The reason he's a great offensive coordinator, he'll definitely get picked up from another team, but the reason that he was unsuccessful here is he's an idiot. Not an idiot. Yeah, he's an idiot with dealing with the press conferences after games, quoting that he deserved to get fired after losing a game. After the 2017 season, saying, I'm thankful for them bringing me back. I'm surprised. It took a lot of courage to rehire me. Who says that? If you're the head coach, you're not supposed to say that. Like, what? Never enjoyed this dude as a head coach. I believe that the Buccaneers need a gritty coach. We need someone to, in order to build a team to bring them from the ground up, you need someone with grit. And Dirk Cutter, he's a great offense coordinator, but he just wasn't that coach to bring us from the ground up. He's a coach to take a winning franchise and to build off of that. Now I'm just going to go into the potential head coaches that the Buccaneers may hire. I feel like we go through this so often. This is like the sixth head coach in the past 10 years. Um, so yeah, I believe that there's a few things that we should look into a head coach. Obviously, I'd like a good, or we would like a good, if I was a GM, things would be a lot different.
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
So the first person we're going to get into is Mike McCarthy. I really don't have to go through this guy's resume too in depthly. This dude was the ex-Packers head coach. He served with them for 13 years. By the way, Packers fans, y'all ain't loyal. I don't care what you say. Y'all spoiled. You've had Brett Favre, then you had Aaron Rodgers. You guys are spoiled. This dude takes you guys to 9 playoffs out of 13 seasons, and they fire him halfway through the season. Not even let the dude finish off the season. Um, that was actually messed up. That's terrible. But anyway, so he had been with the Green Bay Packers for 13 years. Before then, he served as Kansas City's chief quarterbacks coach and also a quarterbacks coach in the past for the Green Bay Packers and offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. And we could just go in detail of some of the quarterbacks he's worked with, being Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. And although these are great talents, obviously he had a hand with their development. Um, as of late, the team had lacked that talent around Aaron Rodgers. And I agree that it should go hand in hand, that you should be able to work with what you got. But I guess it got to that point where Aaron Rodgers just didn't have the youth around him. He didn't have Jordy Nelson, Eddie Lacy, Greg Jennings, Clay Matthews, etc. in their prime. Either their defense is lacking one year or their offense is lacking one year. Last year, when Aaron Rodgers got hurt, last year's kind of a throwaway year. They had that rookie quarterback in, and it just was a shit show, really. And then this year, a few bad games early, I guess, threw the man off, and uh, their franchise went in the tank this year. I would argue that we need, or we would love. It's not like we have to argue. Everyone would love to have Mike McCarthy as our head coach, but definitely the development of Jameis Winston. He's developed Brett Favre, not fully, but he was a part of his development. He developed Aaron Rodgers into what you see today. Um, we and he knows how to make a team successful. He's been in 9 playoffs out of the 13 seasons. That's more than the Buccaneers have been in the past 20 years, probably. Uh, his only issue is he struggled in the playoffs. He only went to one Super Bowl with a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I'm just concerned with making the playoffs at this point and establishing ourselves. And I believe that if he comes here, he can earn respect back in his career. Looking at some of these coaches, like Bill Belichick, for example, people are iffy. They do not know if it's the coach or if it's the quarterback that's actually behind the success. And going to the Buccaneers would help him earn his respect in his career back, rather than how he went out getting fired halfway through the season like a freaking prom date and just forgotten about, and it left his reputation and like it shattered his reputation practically. And I think you would want to start over, and if you could bring the Buccaneers to the playoffs, that proves a lot about his coaching ability. And we also have a set offense. Another potential head coach spot is Todd Monken. For those Buccaneers fans, you know that he's been the offense coordinator for the Buccaneers since Dirk Cutter's been the head coach. Um, One thing that made a splash is when he was given the play calling responsibility this year, we became a top three offense finally after past years of our offense struggling. He finally showed, I think it was 2015 when Dirk Cutter was the offensive coordinator, our offense was very good. But then when Dirk Cutter took the responsibility of play calling and head coach, it obviously went to shit. But yeah, Todd Monken did prove himself this year as a strong offensive coordinator. Uh, a positive note of why we would need him is he knows the team well, he knows the players well, he knows the scheme well already. So that would be his advantage. However, I believe, and I hope, I pray that the Glazer family believes that we need a fresh start. We can't rehire an assistant coach like we did last time with Dirk Cutter. These players are sick of these coaches. I'm sure at this point, with the amount of talent walking around that locker room and looking at all the other teams making the playoffs, and they're at home in January. They're not on the field anymore. So uh, I'm sure Todd Monken will probably get some head coach calls uh, at the end of the year, but I'd be surprised if the Buccaneers reach out. So another potential candidate that I'm seeing, I believe he's been interviewing with a few teams. Jim Caldwell, he was the Colts head coach for 2009 to 2011. Served as a quarterbacks coach and an offense coordinator for the Ravens 2012, 2013, and was the Detroit head coach for 2014 to 2017. Um, he's had short tenures as head coach jobs. He brought them to the playoffs, by licking his chops at the potential of the Buccaneers offense. He's served on great offenses with Megatron, Matthew Stafford, uh, other teams like the Colts when they had Peyton Manning. He served on a lot of great offenses. However, he was fired from the Lions. I believe he lost the four straight in his postseason run, but I could care less because we haven't been to the postseason for like 10 years, so that'd be nice to get there. So he would be a good coach, I believe. Like not top tier, but I believe he would be able to. He has experience as a head coach, experience getting into the postseason. Um, he'd be a decent coach to hire that could get us there. Another available coach, Josh McDaniels, the offense coordinator for the Patriots, and this is a sketchy one, of course. As you know, their defensive coordinator last year, now head coach for the Detroit Lions. Josh McDaniels was actually announced as a head coach for the Colts last year, but dropped out last minute, which was messed up. Uh, but yeah, he withdrew, and now he's with the Patriots again. He's been in the 5 Super Bowls as the offensive coordinator uh, for the Patriots. Not much more I can say about that. It's a little hard to tell when I say it's sketchy. Is they have Tom Brady, one of the greatest ever to play the game. If it's like it's like playing a game on easy mode. I mean, come on. But they never, like, they had Brady, but he never had weapons around him. So I give Josh McDaniels that. He's been on a winning team, 5 freaking Super Bowls. Not many coaches could say they've been a part of that. So I believe he, I believe. I mean, yeah, he'd be a great great asset. Not sure how his head coach abilities are, and that's why I'm sketched out when I mention coordinators or they've never had experience as a head coach, although he served as a Broncos head coach for 2 years in the past. But um, yeah, it really comes down to that. Like you see Dirk Cutter, he had great success as an offensive coordinator, but then as a head coach, he's trash. So it really comes down to the character. And that's something that me, you, and no one else other than reporters and other coaches or players in the NFL would know. So another candidate, I believe, that would be a fantastic asset to the Buccaneers, and I definitely love him as well as many of these other coaches, is Bruce Arians. I actually had to re-record this scene because I did not get my facts straight. Bruce retired last year from NFL football, being the past Arizona Cardinals head coach, and they had signed him to a 4-year contract that would go into the year of 2019. um, but if he were to be offered a contract for a new team, that new team would have to go through the Arizona Cardinals and offer them something, which would grant them access to Bruce Arians. Um, he served around 6 years with Arizona Cardinals and went to two playoff runs. Definitely was competitive. Never had a terrible losing season with the Cardinals. He developed Carson Palmer. He was a part of developing Peyton Manning in his early years as a quarterback coach for the Indianapolis Colts. He's a great offensive mind. Um, I believe that he's experienced. He's a very old coach. Definitely has a lot of experience under his belt. Would be a fantastic asset to the team. But again, it works in both ways. If he believes that he can use Jameis to his advantage, and if the Buccaneers believe that he could actually help develop Jameis better than Dirk Cutter miserably failed to do. Bruce Arians has also, in recent news, expressed interest in hearing the Buccaneers out, having served at Arizona with Jason Litch in a past year, so they do know each other and they have a good relationship. So I believe it is possible for him to hear them out, but it really does ultimately come to if he believes that Jameis is that franchise quarterback that we drafted in the first round, um, and if he could develop them like Peyton Manning and Ben Roethlisberger and Carson Palmer, uh, is really to dictate this decision. And the last potential choice I'm going into is my personal favorite, Vic Fangio. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but he served as the defense coordinator for the 49ers for 4 or 5 years in the early teens. And he's obviously now currently the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears for the past 3 or 4 years. And this guy's a big name. He has a lot of grit, strict guy from what the players say in all the post interviews. He keeps them in line. He's a typical defensive coordinator, hard nosed football, so much grit, which I believe that we need. Like I mentioned in the past, we need someone to come in here and take control of this team, to put them in line and get them to do what he wants them to do. He's one of the only defensive minded coaches in the market that have a great track record, in my opinion. Definitely in high demand for those teams who express a great interest in defense. However, it's not as great as it used to be. As you can see, the league is changing with offensive teams putting up 50-point games all the time. Uh, he, I mean, I'd love to have some defense back in Tampa. Our defense has struggled. We haven't been good probably since the early 2000s. But the guy just formed a lot of success in Chicago, and it really depends how their postseason pans out. Would probably have a general hand on if he wants to be a head coach of the Buccaneers. It's a lot of work. So that is my list of potential NFL coaches that I believe can help the Buccaneers finally reach the Super Bowl. Let's start with the playoffs first. To reach the playoffs, this is just a rough list. I mean, there's like so many candidates, including college too, but maybe another video I go more into that. I just know more about NFL football, and I thought it was fair just to share you guys my opinion. Um, Other teams you have to remember that have potential vacancies are the Cardinals, the Bengals, the Broncos, the Bucs, the Jaguars, not the Panthers, but and the Jets and the Packers. Those are some good teams with great offenses, great potential young quarterbacks that these coaches would may want to pick over us. I like this list of coaches because of their grit, their experience, their success. We need someone in order to bring us out of this hole. We need someone who's hungry. We need a coach that is willing to start from the bottom, get their hands dirty, and then become a top competitor. We need a competitor. Dirk Cutter wasn't a competitor. He wasn't gritty. He wasn't hungry. We need someone with those traits to bring the Buccaneers to success once again. I hope we get one of these guys on the list. I think any of these guys on the list would be a great start to the Buccaneers' success. But we will see who we may land with. I doubt it's Mike McCarthy. I wish it was Mike McCarthy. I like the Bears defensive coordinator though. I like that. I like a defensive coach. it makes sense to get an offensive quarterback guru. But I like our guys.